Imagine you are standing in a small enclosed cave. It's the dead of winter, roughly 40,000 years ago. The air is thick, and the entrance is heavily blocked with animal hides to keep the freezing wind out. Inside, there is a fire burning continuously, fed by whatever dry wood or animal dung could be scavenged. Around that fire are 10 to 15 other humans. They are wearing animal skins that have been repeatedly soaked in sweat, blood, and animal fats. None of them have taken a bath with soap, ever. You are trapped in this enclosed, unventilated space with them for the next 3 months. What does it smell like? It is the kind of question that modern historians tend to politely ignore because we prefer our ancestors to be noble and majestic, not intensely fragrant. You are, from a modern biological perspective, a sanitized anomaly. You scrub your skin with chemical surfactants daily. You apply aluminum to your armpits to physically block sweat glands from functioning, and you mask your natural biological exhaust with synthetic fragrances. You have completely erased your human scent, but for 99.9% of our evolutionary history, humanity existed in a perpetual state of intense, complex, and unmasked odor. So the question isn't just, did they smell bad? It's actually a window into how ancient humans survived, how their biology worked differently than ours, and how the concept of bad smell is an entirely modern invention. Let's start with the baseline: sweat. Humans are the sweatiest primates on Earth. We have anywhere from 2 to 4 million sweat glands covering our bodies. This was an evolutionary superpower. It allowed our ancestors to hunt during the hottest parts of the day by running down prey until the animal literally died of heat exhaustion, a strategy called persistence hunting. But sweat itself doesn't smell. The odor comes from bacteria on your skin, breaking down the proteins and lipids in that sweat. In the ancient world, human skin microbiomes, the ecosystem of bacteria living on the body, were fundamentally different. Today, because of daily showering and antibacterial soaps, we constantly strip away our natural bacterial defenses, allowing fast-growing, highly pungent bacteria like Corynebacterium to recolonize our armpits quickly. Ancient humans, covered in dirt, natural oils, and undisturbed microbiomes, actually had a more balanced skin ecology. The bacteria on their skin broke down sweat differently. It wasn't the sharp, acrid smell of a modern teenager who forgot their deodorant. It was a heavier, earthier, more musky scent. It smelled like an animal, because, to put it bluntly, that is exactly what they were. But the body was just the foundation. The real aroma came from the lifestyle. What do you think is the primary reason modern people recoil at the idea of ancient smells? Let me know in the comments if you think it's the lack of soap, the diet, or something else entirely. The dominant smell of every ancient human everywhere on the planet was wood smoke. Fire was the technology that kept us alive. It cooked food, provided warmth, and kept predators away. Ancient humans lived around fires, slept next to them, and spent hours in smoke-filled caves or huts. Wood smoke is incredibly pervasive. It permeates hair, skin, and clothing almost instantly. It is also a natural antimicrobial and insect repellent. Ancient humans smelled deeply and permanently of campfire. In many ways, smoke was the very first human perfume, an unintentional consequence of survival that actually helped mask the sharper odors of the human body. Then there was the clothing. Before the invention of woven textiles like linen or cotton, ancient humans wore animal hides. Treating an animal hide to make it soft and wearable without it rotting is a chemical process called tanning. And the earliest methods of tanning involved using the animal's own brain, urine, or feces to break down the proteins in the skin. Yes, you heard that right. To make a warm winter coat, you had to physically rub brains or urine into a dead animal's skin and let it cure. Once cured, these skins were rarely, if ever, washed. They absorbed sweat, grease from food, and dirt over years of continuous wear. The smell of an ancient human's wardrobe would have been a pungent mix of old leather, rancid animal fat, and whatever they had for dinner last week. Speaking of dinner, diet played a massive role in ancient body odor. You are what you eat, and you also sweat what you eat. Ancient diets were hyper-localized. Coastal populations eating massive amounts of fish and marine mammals would have metabolized those specific proteins, resulting in a distinct oceanic, slightly fishy body odor. Inland hunters consuming exclusively lean venison and roots would have smelled entirely different. When groups met, they probably could have smelled what the other tribe had been eating from several yards away. If this historical reality check is changing how you view the past, hit the like button. It helps tell the algorithm that real history isn't always pretty, but it's always fascinating. There is also the undeniable reality of dental hygiene. We imagine ancient humans walking around with rotting teeth and horrific breath, but the truth is a bit more complicated. Before the invention of agriculture, humans ate virtually no refined sugars or simple carbohydrates. The bacteria that cause cavities and tooth decay thrive on sugar. Without it, hunter-gatherer populations actually had incredibly strong teeth with very few cavities. They chewed on fibrous plants, twigs, and roots that naturally scrubbed their teeth. Their breath didn't smell like minty toothpaste, but it also didn't necessarily smell like a rotting corpse. It probably smelled faintly of raw meat, herbs, and earth. It wasn't until the agricultural revolution, when we started eating massive amounts of grain and bread, that dental decay and genuinely horrific bad breath became a widespread human problem. But perhaps the most fascinating part of ancient smells is how our ancestors used them. Smell wasn't a social embarrassment, it was a survival tool. The human olfactory system is incredibly powerful. We can detect specific compounds at parts per billion levels. Ancient humans used scent to recognize members of their own family and tribe. In a world without ID cards or distinct uniforms, the complex, unique odor of a person, their diet, their specific campfire smoke, their sweat was their biological signature. Modern research has shown that humans can subconsciously detect fear, sickness, and genetic compatibility through body odor. Ancient humans, without their senses dulled by artificial fragrances, would have been acutely aware of this. They could literally smell if someone was sick before they showed symptoms. They could smell fear during a hunt. The modern obsession with erasing our scent is, historically speaking, completely unnatural. We have blinded one of our most vital evolutionary senses. Have you ever noticed how strongly a specific smell can trigger a memory? Share your most powerful scent memory in the comments. Our brains are hardwired for this, a leftover survival mechanism from a time when smell meant the difference between life and death. The wealthy of the slightly less ancient world, the Romans, the Egyptians, the Babylonians, were the first to try and escape this biological reality. The moment humans accumulated enough wealth and free time, they immediately started inventing ways to not smell like humans. The Egyptians invented complex perfumes made from myrrh, frankincense, and lotus. Roman patricians bathed daily in elaborate public baths using curved metal tools called strigils to scrape the sweat and oil from their skin before dousing themselves in expensive rose oils. But even then, this was an elite privilege. For the vast majority of human history, for the peasants and the hunters and the builders, the world was aggressively fragrant. We look back at ancient humans and assume their lives must have been miserable because of the stench. But this is a psychological projection. To an ancient human, the smell of a sweat-soaked, smoke-stained tribe wasn't disgusting. It was the smell of safety. It meant you were not alone in a terrifying world. It meant you had fire. It meant you had clothing. If an ancient human were teleported into a modern subway car filled with people wearing antiperspirant, body spray, and freshly laundered clothes, they wouldn't think it smelled clean. They would think it smelled dead. To them, the sterile, chemical absence of biological scent would be deeply unnerving. It would signal an environment completely devoid of life, fire, and safety. If you are finding this breakdown of our ancient biology as fascinating as I do, make sure to subscribe and hit the bell. We dive into the brutal, uncomfortable, and amazing realities of human history that the textbooks leave out every single week. The next time you apply your deodorant or light a scented candle to mask the smell of your own home, take a second to realize what you are doing. You are participating in a very recent, highly artificial experiment. You are erasing the biological markers that kept your ancestors alive for hundreds of thousands of years. You are a human being, but you have engineered your environment and your body so that you no longer smell like one. And while your coworkers and roommates definitely appreciate it, your ancestors would be thoroughly confused.